Hello and welcome back to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel, where of course we're giving you all the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Back again with another video on the channel today, talking all about Transfer Deadline Day special video here on the channel, talking about what Albion need to do in order to put themselves in the best position for the coming months ahead before the January window. What can they do today on deadline day to make things better for the side going through what is a busy autumnal and winter period? We'll be talking all about what they need to do and what sort of players they need to sign in today's video. It's going to be a mad deadline day. I hope we get some deals done. But obviously, let's see what I think we should do and what you guys think we should do as well via Twitter and all that jazz. But before we get into this video, a deadline day special, be sure to subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel, where, of course, we give you all the latest content like match day vlogs. We give you transfer updates like this. We give you match previews, match reaction podcasts, all that jazz on this podcast channel. So make sure you're subscribing to the Baggies Podcast. 1,000 subscribers is our goal by the end of December, so make sure you do that. But yeah, let's get straight into this deadline day transfers. So deadline day is upon us. Wow, another transfer window that's been quite busy from an Albion's perspective if you think about it. With plenty of additions coming in throughout the window so far. Obviously not been massively busy, but still a reasonable amount of transfers coming into the club. Yeah, let's have a look at who we've bought into the club, because obviously it's been a reasonably busy window, not too busy, and not one that's, massively busy for Albion. But in terms of additions, we've made 5 additions, as I count there, 5 additions, and definitely some outgoings as well for the club. So let's take a look at who we've bought into the club so far. So coming into the club, we have signed, I think the first signing we bought in was, in fact, Alex Mowat, who signed following the expiration of his contract at Barnsley. Obviously, signing Alex Mowat is probably the best signing of the summer so far. Along with, I think, is a very astute addition, is Matt Clark on loan from Brighton. Obviously, the 24-year-old joined us relatively near the beginning of the window. Obviously, if you want to go and check out the video on Matt Clark or the video on Alex Mowat, there's plenty of them in our transfer content playlist, so make sure you check that out. Then we went and signed a bit of Adam Reach, who joined us on a free transfer following the expiration of his contract at Sheffield Wednesday. Then we went out and signed Jordan Hugill. Then it was Jason Malumbi, of whom there is a video coming tomorrow about, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled on the podcast channel for that. And then obviously we brought in those 5 players. Then in terms of outgoings, we let quite a few players go. So obviously we let Mateus Pereira go for a reported fee of £18 million. Then we let Raheem Harper go for a reported fee of £500,000. Same with Ahmed Hegazi for a similar fee to Al Ittihad in the Saudi Arabian League. Obviously, I think this is probably the first window that we've had more than one transfer or any transfer go to the Saudi Arabian League. Kieran Gibbs left for Inter Miami on a free transfer. Andy Lonergan left for Everton on a free transfer. Kamil Grosicki left for Pogon Szczesny on a free transfer. Kyle Edwards left for Ipswich on a free transfer. Charlie Austin left for QPR on a free transfer. Lee Peltier left for Middlesbrough on a free transfer. Sam Field left for QPR on a pre-agreed transfer fee. Romain Sawyers left on loan for Stoke City. Then without a club, remaining would be Hal Robson-Kanu and Branislav Ivanovic, who still are without a club currently. But yeah, those are the ingoings and outgoings of the Albion squad so far. Of course, plenty of time to bring in some additions. Obviously, the transfer window shuts tonight, and we're looking forward to seeing who we can bring in. But let's talk about who I think we should bring in, because I think there are still some gaps left in this squad to fill. Obviously, as I mentioned there are transfers in each position apart from goalkeeper. Obviously, goalkeeper is quite strong for us at the moment with Button, Johnson and Palmer. But the defence, we brought in one addition there with Matt Clark, and then obviously Reach could fill in at left wing back or left midfield if you like. But yeah, for me, there's still room for another centre-back. However, due to somebody who I think has done really well recently in Caleb Taylor, who played really well in the Arsenal game in the Cup, I think that position is no longer so desperate. However, somebody like Matt Clark has also strengthened that position. There is room for another one. Obviously, Cedric Kipre, I'm worried about him, whether we will be listening to offers for him later on in the window. And if he is to leave, I think it's best to bring in another centre-half, even if it's just on a loan deal. I'm sure we'll have somebody lined up for that eventuality. As I do trust what we're doing with the transfers this summer. I don't trust the owners at all, because obviously there's so much money that's coming from the Pereira transfer, and apparently we still need to sell to buy. So yeah, it's a bit worrying where all that money's gone, and I think we know the answer as to where it's gone. But I'm pleased with the business that we've managed to do. Yes, it's on the cheap. Yes, it's on the frees and the loans, but you've got to be pleased with the way that we strengthened the side ever so slightly. But there's still room for more. See, the average age of the arrivals coming into the club are 26 years old, and the total market value of the arrivals is 18.72 million. Whereas, obviously, we let go Montez Pereira for significantly more than that. However, I think in midfield, there's still room for another one. Jason Malumbi coming in to sort of add a bit of strength in there. Alex Mowatt's been starting for us and done really well so far. I think that there is room for another centre midfielder, be it on loan, somebody, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, a nice mobile midfielder who may like a loan somewhere. I'm looking at teams, in the top flight who have got a player who perhaps they need to give a bit of game time for, somebody like, let me think off the top of my head, a youngster maybe. I can't quite think off the top of my head who I'd bring in specifically, but there's definitely room for a midfielder, definitely a Okay, Kushlu is obviously the one that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. Obviously, he had a great loan spell for us last season, but did really well for Albion. He's not been touched by Premier League clubs. Obviously, Watford and Wolves have been in talks and interested in him, but they've all fell through. So there is room if we are to bring in somebody. Okay, Kushlu for £4 million is definitely a snip, and I think we've got to at least have a go at that if we are to get somebody in this window in the midfield position. Okay, Kushlu would do a fantastic job. I know people say he doesn't fit the system, he's not good at pressing, but pressing is far more than fitness, and it's far more than having energy. It's about your intelligence, your reading of the game. You know when to go and win the ball, you know when to not win the ball. Yeah, I think Kushlu would be great. I think he could even push for a starting spot. I mean, if Livermore can make it in this high-pressing system, I think Kushlu can as well. He's definitely a gritted and determined player who could definitely do a job for us in there. So I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that he would be decent for us in the midfield. In terms of up front and in terms of, I think wing-backs, firstly, I think there is room for perhaps a right wing-back or a right midfield player to play instead of Furlong. Obviously, Connor Townsend got a bit of respite with Adam Reach if needs be, but on the right hand side, I'm a bit worried that it will have to turn to academy prospects if we are to keep this squad the way it is. I think you might have to turn to somebody like Taylor Gardner-Hickman. You may have to turn to Ethan Ingram, which I suppose isn't massively fair on them, to be honest, in terms of their development. Obviously, we thought it wasn't fair that all of them were thrust into the same position on the Wednesday night game against Arsenal, but I feel that if you thrust them in, quite slowly, quite gently, and it doesn't have to be down to the players don't have to play. I think it makes it for a much better watch and a better bedding in for these youngsters. So I think right wing back, there's still a little room for improvement. I think in terms of squad depth, it just needs to be better in terms of with the squad depth for me. Obviously, relying on youngsters is never a good thing. You want to be able to bring the youngsters in when you've got the capabilities to do so and when you can. So, yeah, the youngsters, they can come in, but I think it's best to do it when they're not absolutely needed and when we're able to bring them in when they're good and ready rather than, not quite needing them or having a desperation for them to come in the side. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about the right wing back and the midfield position. I may go for somebody up front. In fact, I'd definitely go for something up front. I think we're definitely and desperately in need of another bit of striking depth up front. Obviously, bringing in Jordan Hugill has helped, but obviously I'll get to outgoings in a minute, which will include Kenneth Zohore, who Jordan Hugill will hopefully replace and provide the work ethic that Kenneth Zohore should have been putting in. I think it would help a lot to have somebody a bit, like Jordan Hugill, a bit better finisher in front of goal. Daryl DK is the one I'm thinking of, and Daryl DK is the one I've included in the thumbnail. However, if you think about Daryl DK, the MLS transfer window is shut at the moment, and their season is ongoing until November. Therefore, in January, their transfer window will open, their season will be finished, and he could come into the side and do us a job. So, for me, Daryl DK, if he's to come in, he'll probably come in January, and that's why Ismail probably keeps saying something about, we'll go for somebody in January, and I think that will be much better for Orlando, but I'd love to see him come during this window. I don't think that's one for this window, as I said, but I do think it is one for January. But obviously, it's a long way to go till then to play with two strikers that he's going to play in Robinson and Jordan Hugill, and obviously Phillips can do a job up there. Probably Grant could as well, but he's still rather a proper striker, and I'm hoping that we can sort something out by the deadline. But Daryl DK is the one that I'm looking at, and Daryl DK is the one I want personally. So I hope we manage to get him, and I hope that we manage to bring him in to the side before the deadline. But I think it's going to be a January job, as he keeps talking about. So yeah, those are sorts of my additions. In terms of outgoings, I think there's only really one that needs to go, and I think that's Kenneth Sahor. I think his time has run at the club now. I think from the start it was doomed because he was not an £8 million player, and God knows where we found £8 million from to pay for him, because we can't pay £8 million for anybody half decent at the moment. So yeah, I think in terms of that, I think we just need to take him out the side, get him on a loan, even if it's a permanent deal, even if it's a loan, it doesn't matter. Just let him go, because I think it's getting quite toxic with when Kenneth Sahor's playing, and I don't think he'll be able to play another game without it becoming a bit toxic and a bit a bit unfriendly between fan and player. He's not done the job for us. He's not put in the work required. Therefore, I think it's just about his time to go. I think that's probably the only outgoing. Maybe Alex Palmer on loan could be one. Obviously, I'd like to see him break into the first team, but there's no way he's getting in over England international Sam Johnson, who goes away on international duty this week. So I think Palmer's loan may be something that we need, and if so, that would probably bring in a free transfer goalkeeper to make a third choice goalkeeper. But yeah, we'll see what happens on deadline day. Obviously, the window slams shut tonight, and we look forward to seeing what Albion can bring in. If you want to keep up with the latest updates, follow our Instagram page at the Baggies Podcast, or follow our Twitter at the Baggies Pod. We can keep you updated with all the transfer news coming in as and when it happens. But yeah, that does bring me to the end of what I think we should do this transfer deadline day. In summary, I think a goalkeeper if Palmer is to leave on a free, perhaps. Maybe another centre-back if Kipre leaves, but then a midfielder, or a centre midfielder, a wing-back and a striker would be a really good business, but I don't think it's going to be done. I think if we're lucky, we'll end up with one of those three. But yeah, that brings me to the end of this Baggies Podcast transfer update and deadline day special. Make sure you comment down below your thoughts on the window, and make sure you comment who you think we should bring in this deadline day, and who you're hoping to see in an Albion shirt for the coming months, and whether you think that there should be business done in January instead. Let me know in the comments below. But yes, that brings me to the end of this transfer update. Be sure to subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel, drop us a like and comment your thoughts below. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.